The colony of New Ares was a small dot of humanity in a vast unknown galaxy. It was a place of hope for many who left Earth behind, dreaming of a new life among the stars. The colony was nestled on the surface of a quiet, rocky planet with red skies and thin air. Life was hard, but the people were determined. Among them lived a little girl named Alara. She was no ordinary child. Alara was the princess of the colony, the daughter of Governor Lysara, the woman who led the humans in this far corner of space. The colony was peaceful most days. People worked hard, built homes, and cared for their families. But beyond the calm surface, a dark threat waited. The Karath were a fierce alien race known for their strength and cold strategy. They did not trust humans and saw them as weak. The Karath had made it clear. They wanted New Ares, and they were ready to take it by force. Sergeant Kale Voss was a soldier of the New Ares Defense Force. Unlike many soldiers who loved the noise of battle and the thrill of war, Kale was quiet. He kept to himself and rarely spoke. His calm and careful nature made him a great soldier, but he never sought attention or praise. Most people didn't know much about him, but those who worked with Kale respected him deeply. One morning, Kale stood at the edge of the colony's main square. The sun was low in the red sky, casting long shadows across the rocky ground. Today, Kale's orders were clear. He was to protect Princess Alara. The little girl needed constant protection because of her importance. Many people in the colony depended on her family's leadership to stay safe and united. Alara came skipping out of the governor's house, her bright eyes shining with curiosity. She wore a small, simple dress that was slightly dusty from playing outside. Her blonde hair fell in soft curls around her face. She looked like any other child, but Kale saw the weight she carried in her small hands. "Good morning, Princess," Kale said softly, kneeling to be at her eye level. Alara smiled shyly. "Good morning, Sergeant Voss. Will you walk with me today?" Kale nodded without hesitation. "I will." Together they walked through the bustling colony, past families working and children playing. Kale kept a careful watch, his sharp eyes scanning the horizon for anything unusual. He was a soldier trained to notice the smallest threat, and on this day that skill would be needed more than ever. As they reached the transport bay, a squad of soldiers prepared for a patrol mission. The Karath threat had grown worse over the past weeks, and every patrol was dangerous. Governor Lysara had insisted that Alara stay close and safe, but the colony was too small and the danger was real. Suddenly, a warning siren blared across the colony. The peaceful morning shattered like glass. Kale's heart tightened, but his face stayed calm. "Enemy ships detected," a voice announced over the loudspeakers. Kale grabbed Alara's hand and pulled her behind a nearby wall. Dust and small rocks tumbled from the sudden movements of people running for cover. The Karath had arrived. Massive ships darkened the sky, blocking out the sun. They hovered just above the rocky surface, releasing smaller attack drones that swarmed like angry hornets. The air filled with the sound of explosions and the crackle of laser fire. Kale felt the weight of his duty like never before. The princess's safety was in his hands. "Stay close," Kale whispered to Alara, shielding her with his body. The convoy that was supposed to take the governor and her family to a safer place was under attack. The Karath forces moved fast and without mercy. Kale quickly called for reinforcements on his communicator, but he knew help might not come in time. A sharp sound cut through the chaos, a sudden blast near Kale's position. The ground trembled beneath their feet as a drone exploded. Kale aimed his rifle carefully, firing precise shots that took down attackers one by one. Alara watched with wide eyes but didn't scream. She trusted Kale. He was her silent guardian. As they moved toward the transport, another wave of drones came closer. Kale saw one targeting Alara. Without a second thought, Kale took the shot. The blast hit the drone midair, sending it crashing behind them. But at that moment, Kale felt a sharp pain in his side. Something had grazed him, maybe shrapnel from the destroyed drone or a stray laser blast. Kyle stumbled but caught himself. His vision blurred slightly, but he forced himself to stay upright. Protecting Alara was more important than his own pain. "Sergeant, you're hurt," one of the nearby soldiers shouted. Kyle shook his head. "Not now. The princess, keep her safe." Alara reached out, touching his arm gently. "Are you okay, Kyle?" He gave her a small, reassuring smile. "I will be." The convoy began moving, with Kyle walking beside Alara, his rifle ready. The soldiers around them fought bravely, but the Karath continued to press the attack. In those moments, Kale's calm and quiet nature became a shield for the entire group. His steady presence helped others stay focused, and his skillful shots kept the attackers at bay. The little princess, usually surrounded by guards and luxury, now saw a different side of protection. It was raw, difficult, and sometimes painful, but it was real. The convoy made it to the transport ships just as the Karath seemed ready to push for a final strike. The engines roared to life and the ship lifted off the rocky ground. Kale leaned against the wall of the ship's interior, trying to catch his breath. His side throbbed, but the worst pain was the fear he saw in Alara's eyes. "Why are they doing this?" she asked softly. Kale looked at her, his face tired but kind. "Because they don't understand us yet. They see fear, but they don't know the strength inside people like you and me." Alara nodded slowly, holding Kale's hand tightly. The transport ship flew toward the colony's command center where Governor Lysara waited. The attack had lasted only minutes, but for Kale and Alara, time seemed to stretch into hours. Kale closed his eyes briefly, thinking about what would come next. The Karath would not stop. If humanity was going to survive here, it would be because of people like him, quiet, strong, and willing to take a shot to protect others. The little princess was safe for now, but the real fight was only beginning. The transport ship hummed quietly as it rose above the rocky surface of New Ares. Inside, the small group of passengers felt the weight of what had just happened. The Karath attack was sudden and fierce, a reminder that peace in this distant colony was fragile. But even among the chaos, one moment stood still. The 3 minutes after Sergeant Kale Voss took that shot to protect Princess Alara. Kale sat in a corner of the transport, his hand pressed against his side where the wound throbbed sharply. His face was pale, sweat beading on his forehead. He tried to steady his breathing, but pain made it hard. The wound was not deep, but it was close enough to slow him down. Alara sat next to him, clutching his hand with a grip much stronger than one would expect from a small child. Her blue eyes were wide and serious, no longer just curious. The innocence of the morning was gone, replaced by the harsh truth of war. "Are you hurt badly?" she asked softly, looking into his eyes. Kyle shook his head, forcing a small smile. "I'll be fine. You're safe now, and that's what matters." Alara nodded but did not let go. The quiet moment stretched on as the ship moved farther from the battlefield, leaving behind the burning wrecks of drones and scorched earth. 3 minutes. It was a short time. But to Alara and Kale it felt like a lifetime. Those minutes held fear, hope, and a deep understanding of how fragile life could be. Outside, the colony's defenders scrambled to prepare for the next strike. The Karath were not known for mercy. Their attacks came in waves, and the humans had to be ready. Inside the ship, a different kind of battle was happening. Alara's mind raced. She was only 7 years old, but the events of the morning had changed her forever. She thought of her mother, Governor Lysara, somewhere in the colony, fighting to keep their people safe. Alara wanted to be brave like her mother. She wanted to help, but all she could do was hold Kale's hand and pray. Kale, on the other hand, focused on his duty even as the pain grew worse. His training had taught him to push through injuries to protect those who could not protect themselves. But the soldier also felt something new, a fierce protectiveness for the little girl who trusted him completely. Suddenly, the ship's communicator crackled to life. "This is Commander Ralin. We are dispatching reinforcements to your position." "Hold tight," Kale responded quickly. "Understood, Commander. We're moving to the command center now." The voice was calm but carried urgency. Help was coming, but it might not arrive fast enough. The transport ship's engines hummed louder as it descended toward the colony's main base. The Karath attack had not stopped. In fact, it was growing stronger. As the ship landed, the doors opened, revealing a scene of controlled chaos. Soldiers rushed to their positions. Medical teams hurried to treat the wounded. And standing at the center of it all was Governor Lysara. Her presence was commanding. Her eyes, sharp and full of fire, scanned the battlefield reports on her tablet. She was the heart of the colony's resistance. Alara's eyes lit up when she saw her mother. "Mom," she called out, rushing toward Lysara. The governor knelt down, wrapping Alara in a tight embrace. "My brave little princess," Lysara whispered, her voice steady despite the tension. Kel watched the reunion quietly, feeling a strange mix of relief and admiration. Lysara was everything a leader should be, strong, fearless, and full of hope. But there was no time to rest. The Karath were preparing for another attack. Lysara turned to Kale as Ilara held onto her hand. "Sergeant Voss," she said, her voice firm but kind. "Thank you for protecting my daughter. You saved her life." Kyle nodded, his voice low. "It was my duty, Governor." "The princess is safe now." Lysara studied him for a moment. "Your injury, have you been treated?" "Not yet," Kale replied. "I wanted to make sure she was safe first." "That's exactly why you are the right man for this job," Lysara said with a small smile. "Come with me. We have little time." She led Kale through the busy command center to the medical bay. Doctors and nurses worked quickly to treat the wounded. Kale sat patiently as a medic cleaned and dressed his injury. Meanwhile, Ilara stayed close to her mother, listening to the plans being made. "We need to hold the command center at all costs," Lysara explained to her daughter quietly. "If the Karath take this place, we lose everything." Ilara nodded, understanding more than most children her age. Outside the walls of the command center, the sounds of battle grew louder. Explosions rocked the ground and distant laser fire lit up the sky like stars. Back in the medical bay, Kale's thoughts drifted to the 3 minutes after his shot. Those precious minutes when he was hurt. The princess was scared and time seemed to stop. He knew the fight was far from over. But he also knew that humanity's greatest strength was not just in weapons or technology. It was in courage, in quiet acts of bravery, and in the bond between protectors and those they shielded. After his wound was treated, Kale returned to the command center. He felt a new resolve growing inside him. Governor Lysara stood at the center of the room, rallying her people. "We will not let the Karath break us," she said firmly. "We are human. We are strong, and we protect each other no matter the cost." Ilara stepped forward, her small voice clear. "I want to help too." Lysara smiled, pride shining in her eyes. "And you will. But for now you stay safe with Kale." Kale looked down at the princess, feeling a quiet honor. Together they prepared for what was coming next. The 3 minutes of fear were over. The fight for New Ares had only just begun. The colony's command center was alive with activity. Screens flickered with incoming reports. Soldiers moved quickly between stations. Outside the thick metal walls, the distant rumble of Karath engines and the flash of laser fire told a story of battle that had not yet ended. Inside, Governor Lysara stood tall, a pillar of calm amid the storm. Her voice rang clear as she spoke to her officers and soldiers, giving orders with sharp precision. "We hold this line," she said firmly. "No ground is lost. No lives are given without meaning." In the center of the room, Princess Ilara watched her mother closely. Despite her young age, she understood that this was no ordinary day. The peaceful life she had known was shattered. But she also saw something new, a fierce strength in her mother, a strength that gave hope to everyone around her. Sergeant Kale Voss stood near the edge of the room, leaning against a console to ease the pain in his side. He had been patched up by the medics, but he still felt the sharp reminder of his injury with every movement. Yet his eyes never left the governor. Lysara's leadership was not just about giving orders. It was about inspiring people to be brave, to believe in a future worth fighting for. Suddenly, the main doors to the command center hissed open. A group of soldiers rushed in, their armor scratched and dust-covered. Behind them came a tall woman with dark hair tied back in a tight braid and sharp green eyes that missed nothing. The room grew quiet as everyone turned to see her. Governor Lysara, the colony's leader, had arrived just when they needed her most. "Ilara," Lysara called, her voice softening as she knelt to embrace her daughter. Ilara ran into her mother's arms, relief flooding her small face. "Mom, I was so scared." Lysara held her tightly. "I know, my brave princess. But you are safe now." Kyle stepped forward, bowing his head respectfully. "Governor, it is good to have you here." Lysara looked at Kale and smiled, a mixture of gratitude and understanding in her eyes. "Sergeant Voss," she said, "you've done an exceptional job protecting Ilara." Kyle shrugged modestly. "I was only doing my duty." "That quiet strength is exactly what we need," Lysara said firmly. "Now we must prepare for what comes next." The Karath were not just attacking randomly. They had a plan. They wanted to take the command center to break the colony's leadership and force humans to surrender. Lysara turned to the officers. "Fortify the defenses. Reinforce every entry point. Get the civilians to safety. Her voice was steady, but inside she felt the weight of the colony's survival on her shoulders. Kyle and Lysara moved to a tactical map displayed on a large holoscreen. Red dots marked the positions of the Karath forces moving closer by the minute. The Karath don't expect us to fight this hard, Lysara said quietly. They think we are weak. Kyle's jaw tightened. They don't know what humans can do when we stand together. Lysara nodded. We have to show them. Ilara stood beside them, listening. She had a newfound respect for the soldier who saved her and the mother who fought for her people. Suddenly, a loud alarm echoed through the command center. The Karath were launching another assault. Soldiers scrambled to their weapons and stations. The tension in the room rose like a storm. Lysara took a deep breath and looked directly at Kale. Sergeant, you will lead the team to secure the east perimeter. If the Karath break through there, they can reach the command center. Kyle's eyes met hers. Understood, Governor. Ilara reached out, grabbing Kyle's arm. Be careful, she whispered. Kyle gave a small smile. I will come back. The soldiers moved out quickly, heading toward the eastern wall. Kyle's team was small but skilled, each member ready to fight for their home. As they moved through the narrow corridors, Kyle felt the familiar mix of pain and determination. His injury slowed him, but he refused to show weakness. His mind focused on the task ahead, protecting his colony, his people, and most of all, Princess Ilara. Outside the command center, the red sky burned with the fires of battle. Karath drones buzzed through the air, searching for weak points. Kale's team took positions behind rocks and barricades, preparing to meet the enemy. The first wave of Karath soldiers appeared like shadows against the glowing horizon. They moved with deadly precision, but Kale's team was ready. Hold the line, Kale ordered. The battle began. Laser blasts lit the sky as humans and aliens fought fiercely. Kale fired steadily, his shots finding their marks. Despite the pain in his side, he moved with skill and calm, guiding his team like a silent guardian. Suddenly, a Karath warrior broke through the line, charging toward Kale. The soldier barely had time to react before Kale raised his rifle and fired. The warrior fell. Kale's heart raced, but he did not stop. The fight was far from over. Behind him, a young soldier called out, "They're pushing harder." Kale nodded. "Hold your ground. Don't let them pass." Minutes felt like hours as the battle raged. Kale's team fought with everything they had. Every inch of the perimeter mattered. Then a sudden explosion rocked the ground near Kale. Dust filled the air, making it hard to see. Kale coughed but kept moving forward. "Sergeant!" a voice shouted. "You're bleeding!" Kale looked down and saw blood on his uniform. The wound was worse than he thought, but retreat was not an option. He gritted his teeth and pressed on. Just as the Karath seemed about to overwhelm the line, a deep roar echoed across the battlefield. Reinforcements. Lysara had sent additional troops to support Kale's team. The tide of battle began to turn. The Karath were pushed back step by step, their advance slowed by the combined strength of the colony's defenders. Kale felt a surge of hope. They might just hold the line. After the fight ended, Kale's team regrouped, exhausted but victorious. The injury throbbed fiercely, but Kale refused to show weakness in front of his soldiers. Back at the command center, Lysara awaited their return. "Ilara asks about you," Lysara said softly as Kale entered the room. Kale smiled tiredly. "She's strong. Like her mother." Lysara placed a hand on Kale's shoulder. "Thank you for protecting my family. For protecting all of us," Kale bowed his head. "It is my honor." As night fell over New Ares, the colony gathered to prepare for what was next. The Karath would not give up easily, but humanity had shown something they did not expect. A quiet soldier's courage, a mother's fierce leadership, and a little princess's growing strength. In the darkest hour, the light of hope burned brighter than ever. The night on New Ares was unlike any the colony had seen before. The red sky glowed faintly, casting long shadows across the rocky landscape. Inside the command center, a tired but determined silence filled the air. Soldiers cleaned their weapons, medics tended to the wounded, and engineers worked on repairing the damaged defenses. Sergeant Kale Voss sat quietly in a corner, the pain from his injury a dull throb now. His eyes were focused on the holomap of the colony displayed before him. The map showed more than just the locations of their troops and enemy forces. It revealed secrets Kyle had only recently discovered. 3 days before the Karath attack, while on a routine patrol near the outer perimeter, Kale had stumbled upon something unusual, buried deep beneath the surface of New Ares, hidden in an old mining tunnel long abandoned. He had found a strange device. It was covered in dust and vines, but when Kale brushed it clean, it began to hum softly. Curious and cautious, Kale had brought the device back to the command center. Now Lysara and her scientist were trying to understand its purpose. Lysara entered the room quietly and approached Kale. "Still thinking about the device?" she asked softly. Kale nodded. "It feels important. Something the Karath might want," Lysara sighed. "You may be right. If it's what we think it is, it could change everything." Kale looked up at her. "What do you mean?" Lysara motioned for him to follow. They moved toward the science lab, where a group of scientists worked under bright lights. The lead scientist, Dr. Mara Kess, greeted them. "Governor, Sergeant Voss, thank you for coming." She pointed to the device now sitting on a secure table. "This is an ancient artifact, possibly from a civilization long gone," Dr. Kess explained. "It contains technology far beyond what we have." Kyle studied the device carefully. It was small but complex, made of metal that seemed to change color in the light. Strange symbols glowed faintly on its surface. Lysara's voice was steady but filled with wonder. "If we can unlock its secrets, it might give us the power to defend New Ares better than ever before." Kale felt a spark of hope. Maybe the quiet soldiers' fight was about to become something more. Just then, an alarm sounded through the colony. "Alert! Karath forces detected moving toward the west sector." Lysara's eyes sharpened. "Prepare the defenses." "Kale, I want you to lead a small team to investigate." Kale nodded, rising quickly despite the pain. Ilara appeared at the doorway, watching him with concern. "Will you be okay?" she asked quietly. Kale knelt down, meeting her eyes. "I'll be back. Stay safe with your mother." Ilara smiled bravely. "I will." Kale's team moved swiftly through the dark corridors of the colony, heading toward the west sector. The tension was high. The Karath were relentless, and every encounter could be deadly. As they approached the sector, they found signs of a recent battle, burnt ground, broken machinery, and footprints leading deeper into the tunnels beneath the colony. Kale led the way down into the darkness. The air was cold and stale, and their flashlights cut through the black like knives. Deeper inside the tunnels, they found more of the strange devices, glowing faintly. It became clear that the colony was built over an ancient site filled with powerful technology. Suddenly, the team was surrounded by Karath soldiers. "Ambush!" Kale shouted, raising his weapon. A fierce battle erupted in the narrow tunnels. Kale fought with skill and calm, but the confined space made every move dangerous. During the fight, Kale noticed one of the devices pulsing brighter. Without thinking, he reached out and touched it. A sudden wave of energy surged through him. His vision blurred and a strange power filled his body. The Karath soldiers froze, confused by what was happening. Kale realized the device had activated some kind of defense mechanism. He used this power to push the attackers back, giving his team a chance to escape. Back in the command center, Lysara and the scientists watched the device's readings spike. "Kyle has activated it," Dr. Kess said in awe. "This technology can protect us." Lysara's face was determined. "Then we must learn to control it." Kale returned, exhausted but alive. He told Lysara about the power he had felt, and together they began to understand that the secret within the colony could change their fight against the Karath. The next days were filled with preparation. Scientists worked to unlock more devices hidden beneath the colony, soldiers trained with new weapons enhanced by the ancient technology, and Ilara watched her mother and Kale with growing pride and hope. One evening, as the colony rested, Kale sat beside Ilara in the garden. The stars shone bright above the red horizon. "Ilara," Kale said gently, "your mother is strong, but so are you." Ilara smiled. "I want to be brave like you." Kyle nodded. "Bravery isn't loud or easy. Sometimes it's quiet and steady, like a single shot that can change everything." Ilara's eyes sparkled. "I will remember that." As the colony prepared for the next attack, the secret buried deep beneath New Ares gave them new strength. The quiet soldier who took a shot to protect the little princess was no longer alone. Together with a mother's fierce love and an ancient power awakening, they stood ready to face the darkness. Because sometimes the greatest power comes from the quietest places. The sun began to rise over New Ares, casting a soft orange glow on the rocky landscape. The colony had been holding strong for days, but everyone knew the Karath would return with greater force. The secret technology beneath the colony had given the defenders new strength, but the fight was far from over. Inside the command center, Governor Lucera stood at the center of a group of officers planning their final defense. Her calm voice carried a firm resolve. We will not let the Karath break us. Today we show them the true power of humanity, our courage, our unity, and our spirit. Sergeant Cale Voss, though still feeling the ache from his wound, stood ready beside her. He had become more than just a soldier. He was a protector, a symbol of hope for the colony. His quiet courage inspired those around him. Alara watched from a safe distance, holding her mother's hand tightly. She had grown braver with each day, her eyes shining with determination. The enemy approached. The distant sound of Karath engines and the flash of their weapons grew louder, signaling the start of the final battle. Cale and his team moved to the outer defenses. The ancient devices beneath the colony hummed with energy, ready to assist. As the Karath forces stormed the perimeter, the colony's defenders stood firm. Laser blasts lit the sky. Explosions shook the ground. The battle was fierce and relentless. Cale's team fought with skill and heart. His weapon fired steadily, his eyes sharp despite the pain. Suddenly, a group of Karath warriors broke through a weakened section of the wall. Cale saw them advancing toward the command center. No, he shouted. Hold the line here! I'm going after them. Without hesitation, Cale raced forward, moving through the chaos. His heart pounded, but his mind was clear. He reached the broken wall just as the Karath soldiers entered the colony. A fierce fight broke out in the narrow streets. Cale fought with every ounce of strength, determined to stop the invaders. Behind him, the ancient devices activated, sending pulses of energy that slowed the Karath's advance. The technology and the human defenders worked together like never before. Back at the command center, Lucera coordinated the defense with calm authority. She watched the battle unfold on the holoscreen, her heart filled with pride for her people. Ilara, she said gently, kneeling beside her daughter, your bravery has helped us all. Remember, strength comes not just from power, but from the love we share. Ilara nodded, gripping her mother's hand tightly. As the battle reached its peak, Cale found himself face to face with the Karath leader, a towering figure with glowing eyes and sharp armor. The two locked eyes, each understanding the weight of this final fight. Cale raised his weapon, but the leader charged. The fight was fierce, a test of strength and will. Cale dodged and fought back, using every skill he had learned. Just as the leader prepared a powerful strike, Cale remembered the energy from the ancient device. He reached into his pocket and pressed a small button on a device given to him by the scientists. A bright pulse of light exploded around him, and Cale felt a surge of strength and speed. He moved faster, dodged the attack, and with one precise shot, he brought down the Karath leader. The enemy soldiers saw their leader fall and began to retreat, their morale broken. Cale stood tall, breathing hard but victorious. Back in the command center, Lucera smiled as the defenders cheered. The colony had held. She walked to Cale, placing a hand on his shoulder. You saved us all, she said quietly. Cale looked toward Ilara, who ran into his arms with a bright smile. You are my hero, she said simply. The colony celebrated their victory, but everyone knew this was just the beginning of a long journey. The secret technology beneath New Ares would help rebuild and protect their home. And as the sun rose higher, casting light over the red planet, the quiet soldier, the brave princess, and the fierce mother stood together, ready for whatever the future held. Because in the end, it was not just weapons or power that saved them, but the courage and love that bound them all.